So let's do another one of those. This is a Precis. So they're talking about a book symposium. It looks like on Seeing and Saying by Berit Brogaard she's out of the University of Miami, and this is in philosophy and phenomenological research. So as always, I'm going to read this. This is going to be a bit of a summary paper. We're going to figure out what's going on here, but let me know. So we're just going to go find out, and here we go. And at the end, we review these papers. So here we go, if you stick around. In Seeing and Saying 2018. So this is a 2024 paper about a book in 2018. So this is 6 years later. Maybe, okay. Who knows when the conference was? Do I know when the conference was? I don't know. But yeah, so but like this thing came out where the discussion about the book came out 6 years later. Excuse me. In Seeing and Saying, I make a case for a representational conception of visual perceptual experience and against a relational or naive realist conception, partly on the basis of reflections on language we use to describe how things look or visually appear in experience. All right. Immediately. And this is like one of these things. Is this a good idea to use the way we describe things to say this is how our mind actually is? So when we talk about what we see, we talk about representations, according to Brit. And so that is what we should think is going on in our brain. Is this actually smart? Or is what we say when we are talking about representations of stuff, maybe that's the most convenient way to describe things for other people, but actually has nothing to do with what is going on in our own brains. When I describe something representationally to you, that actually is something that you can use to figure out what I'm talking about, but that doesn't actually mean that's what I'm up to myself. So it's a question, just off the bat. Just because I'm using it to do something with you, that doesn't mean it's what I use for myself. Because, like, again, rhetoric. The way, like, you don't always want to know. You don't always know how the sausage is made. The way the sausage is made, don't ask how the sausage is made. You just have the sausage at the end. That's the same thing here. Maybe the representation I give to you, that's the final piece. That's not actually how the sausage is made on my end. Okay, author will have more to say about appearance talk shortly, but first let me briefly sketch some key differences between a representational and a relational conception of experience. This will also help explain how the two conceptions bring the way a thing looks or appears to bear on perceptual experience. Both sides in this debate can agree that perceptual experience presents objects as being a certain way. For instance, your experience of Lucy may present her as being pale, whoever this Lucy is. However, the representational and relational views disagree about what it is for an experience to present an object as being a certain way. On the representational conception, presenting Lucy as being pale is a matter of making Lucy look pale to the perceiver and representing her as being pale. Here, the way experience makes Lucy look is determined by the way it represents her as being, or vice versa. To represent Lucy as being pale is to ascribe the property of being pale to Lucy. Ascriptions of this sort make up at least part of the representational content of experience. If Lucy is in fact pale, the ascription of paleness to her is true. If Lucy is not in fact pale, but has been made to look pale by a makeup artist, then the ascription of paleness to her is false. So, yeah. This is kind of a very traditional view. Objects have properties. We say the object Lucy is pale, and then you are comparing the object and our description of it to the world. Is there something Lucy, and is that Lucy thing pale? You're just matching it up. So our description here and the object in the world, and you match up the stuffs. Okay, let's move on to the relational or naive realist conception of experience. On this conception, presenting Lucy as pale is not a matter of representing her as pale or making her look that way to the perceiver. Rather, presenting Lucy as pale is a matter of being directly perceptually related to Lucy and her paleness, or in the terminology preferred by some naive realists, presenting Lucy as pale is a matter of Lucy and her paleness being made manifest in experience. Okay, so you don't have an object with the paleness over here, like my pale hand, the way the light reflects here. It's just that this is like there's an object and you're matching it up. It's just that this is the object and you automatically get it.
I salute you.
Thank you for the follow, Checker. Yeah, so questions. Is there a representation you're matching up with reality, or are you directly getting the, like my hand into the brain? And that's the relation. It's just relating directly what's going on. So there's direct perceptual, it's directly perceptually related. So it's just like some sort of immediacy there. Manifest in experience. It's just becoming manifest. This is what it is. You're not comparing things. You're the object with the property. It's just become manifest to you. That's what brains do. They see the world and then what becomes manifest in it. Okay. If, however, Lucy is not in fact pale but has been made to look pale by a makeup artist, her paleness that is manifest in experience, her paleness cannot be manifest in experience. In the envisaged case, it's not her paleness but her pale look that is manifest in experience, where looks are to be understood as objective states of objects. The same can be said in the case of veridical experience. It's just that in veridical experience, objects look the way they in fact are. Yeah, so here's a hand. You see a hand. There's no comparing in your mind of like, oh, there's a hand-like thing, and you're matching that up with the hand that you see on the screen. You just see a hand, and it's directly related into your experience, and you don't actually see the hand. You're seeing the video, the flat representation here of the hand. Okay, so that's like you're only seeing that. Well, you're directly getting that flat video version of the hand. Of course, but that's the same. You're still not matching it up. You're still just seeing the look of a hand is manifest in experience. Easy peasy. All right. Let's turn now to appearance talk, focusing on the appearance verbs like look, seem, and appear. Author follows Roderick Chisholm and Frank Jackson in taking appearance verbs to have epistemic and non-epistemic uses, along with comparative and non-comparative uses. However, Brogaard's account of the uses of appearance verbs differ from Chisholm's and Jackson's in at least two respects. First, Chisholm and Jackson seem to think that appearance verbs have only three uses, specifically comparative epistemic and non-comparative non-epistemic. Jackson dubs the latter the phenomenal use. However, Britt argues that the appearance verbs have four uses, specifically comparative epistemic, comparative non-epistemic, non-comparative epistemic, and non-comparative non-epistemic or phenomenal. Socknow says, yeah, you are seeing the hand that is only presented or the hand that is indirect point of vision. Yeah. So, but like this is contemporary philosophy, and how do we actually, how do we even understand our experience? And these are the options. Like either you're matching up some idea of the thing, like the object with the properties, with your experience of it, or you're just getting a direct experience into your mind, and that's what minds do. They just, things become manifest to them, and then you know them. It's not comparing some idea of it with the world. So, yeah. Okay, so we've got four different options, and Britt seems to, okay, that's what Britt's up to. Second, Chisholm and Jackson seem to think that one can tell how an appearance verb is used by looking at the syntax of the sentence. By contrast, Britt argues that the syntax of a look statement need not reflect which of the four readings is correct in the context. Okay, so this is interesting. Britt Brogaard, the author here, is saying, look, you can't always figure out what someone means by what they say or the text on its own. Maybe there's more to it than that. All right. There. Well, Durden says, does that make the hand look good or bad good? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Vipers, for doing the background stuff there. We'll see what happens with them. There is a question there about how much, rather than thinking about your question, there is something that could be said, that how much do we project into the world when we are thinking? And it's pretty normal nowadays to assume that the brain is doing work, that it's processing the world in a certain way, and that is going to affect our experience. Sakna says, yeah, you need to know the history of the topic within that text. How did it process itself within time? Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff going on here. So, yeah, there may also be good and bad, like evaluative judgments, some sort of value that's getting pushed onto the world. That definitely is the case. Like, you can imagine, like, someone looking at you and someone thinking, oh, they're happy with you, and someone else thinking, oh, they're angry with you, depending on, like, you know, how you feel about them, and maybe like resting bitch face, maybe not resting bitch face. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with how you perceive them. And so there's definitely a, you know, good or bad good, like resting bitch happy, resting bitch angry. You could definitely do that. I know that was a throwback, Rod Durden. That doesn't matter. Prescriptivism, yes. So that says Sakna, yeah. So, like, how much are we describing the world and, you know, affecting it? I know it was a throwback, but, like, there is a point there. Okay. Continuing. Let's look at the epistemic, non-epistemic, and the comparative, non-comparative distinctions beginning with the former. If you assert how things look to you, your use of look is epistemic, provided it would be rational for you to retract your assertion were you to come to possess sufficiently strong evidence that the things are not in fact the way that they look. Okay, yeah, so like y'all see my hand, and like you could say, well, I didn't see his hand, it was actually holding up a fake hand. But like that's fine. You were just like, well, that's what it looked like because that's what it looked like to me. I wasn't making a claim about the world, claiming just like how it appeared. That's the epistemic here. Epistemic, for people who don't know fancy philosophy terms, that just means pertaining to knowledge. So if you say something's just epistemic, it's pertaining to your knowledge. So it looked like there was a hand as far as you could tell it was a hand, and so pertaining to your knowledge, you're calling it a hand. Of course, I could have a fake hand here, and then you'd be like, well, that was a fake hand. And for nerds, it'd be like fake barn. Okay, this is a Gettier case. All right. Suppose you read an email from the department chair stating that the department meeting is canceled. You turn to your colleague and say, 1A, it looks like the department meeting is canceled. A minute later, the chair sends out a correction telling you that she made a mistake and that today's department meeting is still on. If you're rational, you will no longer be committed to the truth of 1A. Suppose instead that you encounter the Ebbinghaus illusion for the first time, figure 1. After looking at the illusion, you say the inner circle on the right looks larger than the inner circle on the left. Okay, so if anyone hasn't seen this illusion before, it's a pretty cool one. So the question is, is the circle right here, this one in this on the left, the same size as the inner circle here on the right? And so if you don't know, don't spoil it for chat. Like, if you haven't seen it, just what does it look like? And then you can go measure and you'll find out. But like, yeah, that they are exactly the same fucking size. So, yeah. That's the Ebbinghaus illusion. It's pretty cool. Okay, and a moment later, you learn that the inner circle and the two figures have exactly the same size. Despite possessing strong evidence that the things are not in fact the way they look, you are not rationally required to retract your prior assertion. Indeed, most of us would be disinclined to do so. Yeah, this one over here on the right looks like it's bigger than the one on the left. Yeah, open another web browser and there's a panel straight edge to compare. Yeah, I mean, if anyone needs paper, here's link. But like, this is a very standard illusion, and most illusions are like this, where it becomes very clear using, you know, a ruler or some other method that there's nothing, no one's trying to fool you here in saying that the inner circles are the exact same size. Like, it's just a standard illusion. It's like, it does look like it's bigger. All right, let's turn to the comparative, non-comparative distinction. where the epistemic non-epistemic distinction also applies to the looks designated by looks. It looks like it's bigger. This is not so far from the comparative non-comparative distinction. The latter is a purely linguistic distinction, but Pache, Chisholm, and Jackson, it is not a purely syntactic distinction. Consider these examples. Anna looks like her sister. Vic looks unwell but ready to go. So this is the first one. Anna looks like her sister is a comparative statement. They call it syntactically comparative. And Vic looks unwell but ready to go. And this is a syntactically non-syntactically comparative statement. Yeah. Okay, 2A is syntactically comparative, whereas 2B is non-syntactically comparative. As I argue as Brit argues in their reply to Alex Byrne, non-syntactically comparative look statements may be semantically and not merely practically comparative. Yeah, so you can see there's this is a comparative when they're talking about Vic's looks unwell. You're not comparing it to anything, but it's still a comparison because how Vic could be looking is not how Vic looks right here. You're not actually comparing anything.
Syntactically, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, syntactically. I'm a little bit out of it today, but like I'm not that out of it, but sometimes weird things pop up, like I can't speak all of a sudden. Yeah. Thank you again, Semiotics, because it turns out the graphics card was a limiting problem that was fucking up everything else, including the TTS. So the TTS has been working. Okay. Is it?
Syntactically.
Exactly. What Viper said. At all costs money. This is the kind of use of drivel that makes most people unthink. That's true. And how you doing? I hope you're having a good day at all cost money. Yeah. The appearance verbs seem and appear uncontroversially belong to a class of verbs known as subject to subject raising verbs, or subject raising verbs, or raising verbs for short. This means that sentences of the form O appears F differ from subject predicate sentences at the level of logical form. To see this, consider that car, like, all right, this shirt is black, and then the car has the property of being black. So this is sort of like black and versus the car is black. 3A is a subject predicate sentence predicating being black of the demonstrated car, as shown in 3B. At first glance, the appears sentence in 4A, so that a car appears black, may seem to have the same underlying structure as 3A, except that where 3A is predicating being black to the demonstrated car, 4A predicates appearing black to the demonstrated car as appear in 4B. So that a car appears black, then appearing black of the car has a property, then appears that car is black. Yeah, vocative versus nominative. Yeah, so we're getting into this stuff. Languagey sort of structures. Initial appearances to the contrary, however, the underlying form of 4A is not a subject-predicate structure. Indeed, one of the advantages of the Chomskyan generative grammar was that it offered a way to distinguish between the different underlying forms of sentences like 3A and 4A. Since it is uncontroversial that appear is a subject-raising verb, appears black in 4A does not ascribe appearing black to the demonstrated car. Rather, appear moves out of the subordinate clause and takes scope over it. Appear is thus a sentential operator that operates on propositional content. Yeah, so the appearances, you're talking about yourself. You're talking about how it appears to you. It's not that the car has an appearance. It's that this is what I'm doing, and that's how it looks to me. And then the blackness is still part of the car, but I'm saying this is what my epistemic stuff is going. So, yeah. Like appear and seem, I argue that look also functions exclusively as a subject-raising verb. If look functions exclusively as a subject-raising verb, 5A is to be read as having the underlying form of 5C rather than the subject-predicate form of 5B. So that car looks black as a looking black is a property of the car. Like this is a looking black shirt, or you could say that's a predicative. This looks to you on screen that it is something that is black. This is giving you an anxiety erection. I'm sorry about that. This shouldn't give you an anxiety one. Like, I know it's a little, this person's an analytic philosopher, so they're looking at the form of what we're talking about and then using that to figure out what we actually think of the world. I don't know if this is a good strategy, but yes, we are doing some sort of syntax and logic here. Okay. Given these preliminary remarks, let's turn now to the main argument in Seeing and Saying. Okay, good. So we're going to move on from just like this background stuff. Sock now, not everyone likes this kind of analysis. And that's fair. Different people, different strokes for different folks. Like, not everyone wants to do philosophy of language. Believe me, I understand. Given these preliminary remarks, let's now turn to the main argument in Seeing and Saying for a representational conception of experience and against the relational or naive realist conception. Come on, people. You're doing double fucking parentheses. I don't like that. The main argument can be formulated as follows. P1. Look is a hyper-intentional mental state operator. Yeah, so look is a hyper-intentional mental state. Is something like belief. It's when you're saying look, when something looks a certain way, you're saying it's like you believe it to be that way. Okay. P2, hyper-intentional mental state operators operate on representational content. Yeah, so if you say believe, then you can say, okay, then you've got a representation of what you believe. So you've got some sort of object with properties, and then that's like what you believe is that object has those properties. Okay, C1, so look operates on representational content. P3, if look operates on representational content, then experience is representational. Alright. I mean, there are things to be said about this. Hence, experience is representational. So they're saying, look, this is how we describe it, and if that's how we describe it, then this is how our experience is. I think everyone has a problem with double parentheses. Like, they didn't need to do that. They just didn't need to do that. Okay, Brit will discuss the arguments for the premises in their replies to the critics. Here I will merely stress that their argument for P3 depends on the idea that the content of visual experience can be specified by non-comparative, non-epistemic, or phenomenal uses of look statements. The idea can be articulated as follows. Reflection. For a true, non-comparative, non-epistemic look report of the form O looks F, so like this shirt looks black, to specify or reflect a content of the corresponding experience is for the experience to have the proposition that O is F as part of its content. Yeah, so the idea that like this shirt looks black to you means that your experience has part of it as your experience is that the shirt has the property of being black. Okay. To illustrate, suppose I have a visual experience that presents their car as O, as appearing black to them. Using look non-comparatively and non-epistemically, they order 6A to report on their experience. So their car looks black to them. The shirt looks black to you. So looks to me, and then the thing is black. As the author reports in 6A is true, it specifies a representational content for their experience, specifically the propositional content that the car is black. So their experience of their car has the propositional content that it is black. As all visual perceptual experiences have representational content, if any does, perceptual experience has representational content. This is the gist of their main argument in Seeing and Saying for a representational conception of experience, and thus against a relational or naive realist conception. They discuss this argument in further detail and in their replies to their commentators here. Okay, so this is, again, Precis. This is just a short summary of what's going on. Did they do a good job at this is, I guess, the question. Did this make sense? Alright. So we can rate this in a sec, but here's the real question. We see this illusion here. So this is like taking stuff from this illusion. You can see that one circle, the inner circle on the left, does not look as big as the inner circle on the right. And so, how do we describe this? You're giving it a property, and because the way we're talking about it, so well, it looks like this to me, and we're saying it looks like the way the syntax works according to this account gives it the thing, well, okay, the size is a property of the object, then it's giving a representation, a size. It's not just a direct thing of how these things appear, because you can, like, you know, break this down. It's kind of the argument. I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense, but that's the idea. It's that the way we talk about this, using the structure of how we talk about it, is actually implying that this is how the things are. But anyway, let's give it a quick review. Anyone here is now welcome to review this paper. I know this was not everyone's cup of tea, but it's, you know, this does present one view in philosophy of mind about how we deal with the world. Our experience is representational, and part of that, what it is to be part of our experience, is to have, you know, this sort of belief or things look a certain way. That's what our brain does, and then it gets the content of that. This is just Husserlian. This is just a Husserlian view of things. So, but yeah. If you thought this had fun ideas, give it a brain dance. Existential artistic drama is a Nog Scream. A Nog Oro for Ouroboros is a deep arrangement of ideas. Nog Knife, slicing and dicing arguments. Yeah, this is very analytic. Nog Navel gazing only for academics. Nog Turd, all style, no substance, no poop underneath. And Nog Grapes for big claims that shrivel up. Also a vote yay, the global vote yay and vote nay on Twitch. I use those. And a vote meh. Anything in the green will make the score go up. I make an overall score. Anything in the red makes it go down. And the vote meh will actually make everything go towards the middle. I mean, this is going to get a Nog Knife. This is just like standard, like bog standard analytic philosophy. So it's just a bunch of that stuff. You're not sure you understood it. Yeah. Well, that's part of the issue here, is that they were summarizing their view that other people can criticize. The alternative view that, like, okay, when the world is out there and then you get like some sort of properties and objects, like that's a representation. That's what you get from the world. Or you get like some sort of direct access to it. There's no representation. It's just, okay, what you see is what you get. And there's no intermediate step. That's it. So it's like, yeah, the difference is, that's why it's naive realism. There's no like processing. What you see is just like, well, okay, it looks that way. That's just how it is. Okay. They were trying to separate that out. The looks, like things that look a certain way to you. And then there's like, that's part of you, like you. And then there's like an object out in the world. Okay, the shirt is black. It's like, all right, so now you've got a look with an object. And that is what, like, that's the representation there. All Cause My, thanks for rating. It gave it a turd and a navel gazing. Sockness says, I think they went a bit too much formal logic instead of describing that double parentheses, but I think it's kind of had a rhythm to it, like a shared logic. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so what am I going to say? I'm going to give this a Nog Knife. This is, give it 2 Nog Knives. So this is what they're doing. They're doing analytic philosophy, and they're drawing on philosophy of language, the way that we have, this is the way we process words like look. So we think of looks, like when I say this looks black, well, we're treating that as like our state, how it appears to us. It's kind of like a belief. And then you take the properties of the objects, and then you say, okay, well, this is how we always have a look. We're always looking at the world. And then like, this is how we get stuff. And so that's there. What was the point of that? Me going over this again. Oh, yeah, it's just philosophy of language and logic, that they're treating this, they're drawing from this tradition of treating a modal or operator style analysis from philosophy of logic and language, and then saying, okay, we're going to read off that. This is how the world actually is. I am not impressed with this paper, to tell you the truth. Like, I don't think I agree with Brogaard on these things. So, I mean, it wasn't badly done. I'm okay with, like, the idea, but I can't give this better than like, it's just a sort of like it's well done for what it is. It's fine analytic philosophy. I'm just not very impressed. Granted, this was again a Precis. This is a summary, and so I'm not like, it wasn't trying to do a whole lot. I'd have to read the book. That's just how it goes. Sock now, thank you for giving it a rating, knife and a Ouroboros. Sock says, I'm not impressed with the style though as well. Thought the theme was good though. Yeah, like, so if you want to do contemporary analytic philosophy of mind, like, well, what actually is the raw material that the brain does? Like, what is, if we want to put this in like Ivan Neo terms, the abstraction that the brain is making? Well, the processing bit that that the brain does, that's what we're calling what it looks like. And then whatever we're getting from the world, that's the representation that, like, the brain is like making a representation and matching it up with whatever the senses are presenting to it. And that's like, again, this is if you want to have a sciencey friendly version of mind, this is one way to do it. Socknell loves the philosophy of language, but you're terrible at it, but you love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm out of this area, but philosophy of language has gone so linguistics that I can't even handle it anymore. But, it's good stuff. I'm just less impressed with the metaphysics here. Just saying, okay, reading the ontology off the logic, I don't like that as a general strategy. Just because we can do logic and language in this way, that doesn't mean that that's how our brains, minds, what have you, work. So I said that right at the get-go too.